In the heart of the modern African city of Kalume, where the streets echoed with music and life, a quiet storm was brewing inside one beautiful apartment. Under the same roof lived two young women, Lulama and Dineka, tied not by blood, but by marriage. Yet from the very first day, it was clear that love didn't live equally in their hearts. Lulama was the kind of girl who didn't need to try to be noticed. Her beauty was gentle, effortless. She didn't wear heavy makeup or chase trends. She simply existed with grace. She had inherited her late mother's warmth and calm spirit, and the community adored her for it. Whether it was helping an old neighbor cross the road, tutoring kids who were struggling in school, or simply smiling at people in the morning, Lulama left a trail of kindness wherever she went. Her father, Mosi, loved her deeply. He was a hard-working electrical engineer, strict but fair, and when he married again, he hoped his new wife Ayira and her daughter would blend into his little family. But Ayira wasn't anything like his first wife. She was flashy, loud, and always chasing money and image. Her daughter Dineka was the same, beautiful on the outside, yes, but always competing, always watching, always hungry for attention. Where Lulama was soft and natural, Dineka was bold and artificial. She spent hours picking out outfits, changing hairstyles, editing pictures, trying to stand out. But no matter what she did, she always felt like a shadow in her own home. To Dineka, Lulama was the enemy. Even though Lulama never raised her voice, never bragged, never tried to steal the spotlight, it was exactly that quiet strength that made people love her more. Teachers praised her, boys complimented her, neighbors greeted her first. And no matter how hard Dineka tried, she always felt like she was one step behind, invisible beside the girl with the natural glow. And inside her chest, that feeling grew into something dark. Every compliment Lulama received felt like a slap to Dineka. Every smile someone gave Lulama made Dineka feel smaller. She began to watch her stepsister's every move, not with admiration, but with envy. And her mother Ayira didn't help. Instead of teaching her daughter to love and grow, she fed that jealousy. "Don't let that girl steal your shine," she'd say behind closed doors. "This is your house now. You're the queen here." And with those words, a seed of bitterness took root deep in Dineka's heart. She didn't want to just share the house. She wanted to take over it completely, not just the room, the space, or the clothes, but the love, the attention, the glory. What began as a silent rivalry was slowly turning into something far more dangerous. And though Lulama was too kind to notice, the storm inside her stepsister was already growing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At school, Lulama shined without even trying. Teachers loved her, classmates respected her, and even strangers online admired her. During a school award ceremony, she was voted most inspirational, and the entire hall clapped like they truly meant it. That moment stayed in Dineka's mind like a sharp thorn. And later that night, when Lulama posted a simple photo of herself in her school uniform, the comments and likes poured in, without filters, without forced smiles. She had something Dineka didn't, something real, and it burned. Dineka spent hours crafting the perfect Instagram posts, highlighted cheeks, glossy lips, brand-name clothes, yet her likes barely scratched the surface of Lulama's effortless glow. It was humiliating, and her mother, Ayira, didn't help calm the fire. Instead, she poured more fuel. One evening, while braiding Dineka's hair, Ayira leaned in and said in a low, cold voice, "Don't let that girl outshine you. This is your house now. Take your place, Dineka. Don't let her steal what's yours." That night, something shifted inside Dineka. It wasn't just jealousy anymore. It was war. At first, she tried to ignore Lulama. She kept to herself, pretending nothing was wrong. But the more she watched Lulama laughing with her friends, getting praised by teachers, or smiling at strangers in the market, the more her stomach twisted in knots. Her envy became a storm inside her. It whispered to her at night and screamed at her during the day. So she started small, little rumors. "She's not who she pretends to be," Dineka would whisper during lunch breaks. "You think she's sweet? That girl has two faces. Don't be fooled." Some classmates believed her, others didn't. But Lulama stayed calm, quiet, and graceful through it all. That only made Dineka angrier. She wanted her to react, to cry, to fight, to lose her shine. But Lulama never gave her the satisfaction. It was like nothing could touch her, like she was protected by something invisible. And that's when Dineka's thoughts turned darker. What if she couldn't beat Lulama by pretending? What if the only way to win was to destroy her? She began to watch her stepsister with colder eyes. Every moment Lulama smiled, Dineka imagined ways to wipe it off her face. Every time someone praised her, Dineka clenched her fists tighter. She no longer wanted to be better. She wanted Lulama gone. Her heart had turned into a boiling pot of envy, and soon that pot would overflow. Because in her mind, she didn't see a kind sister anymore. She saw a threat, a rival, an enemy in her own home, and she was ready to take her down. It was a bright afternoon in Kalume, with the sun casting golden light over the city. Lulama had just finished studying at the library, her bag filled with borrowed books, and her mind at peace. As she walked home, she decided to stop by the corner where old Mama Folami sat beneath a faded umbrella, surrounded by baskets of herbs, roots, and strange charms. Her tiny wooden stall seemed like a piece of the old world frozen in time, right in the middle of glass towers and busy sidewalks. Everyone in Kaloum knew Mama Folami. Some said she could speak to spirits. Others believed she saw dreams that had not yet come. Her one eye was blind, milky white, but the other, it saw deeper than most people dared to look. Children feared her, elders respected her, and many just walked by quickly, avoiding her sharp gaze. But Lulama always greeted her kindly. That day, as Lulama stepped near, Mama Folami didn't even lift her head. She just spoke, her voice like dry leaves blowing across a tin roof. "You carry light, child," she murmured, "but there's fire behind your back, and it waits to burn you." Lulama froze. Her heart skipped a beat. The words hit something inside her, something she didn't even know was there. "Fire?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Mama Folami slowly reached into her basket and pulled out something unusual, a small braided charm made of nyota root and thin, knotted river twine. It looked simple, but carried an energy that made Lulama's skin prickle. "This," Mama Folami said, placing it in Lulama's palm, "will not stop the fire, but it may help you survive it. Wear it close." Lulama stared at the charm. It looked like something from a storybook. She wanted to laugh it off, to say thank you politely and walk away. But her spirit didn't feel light anymore. Something inside her had shifted. She took the charm gently and tucked it into her bag, unsure if it would help or if Mama Folami was just being strange again. But as she walked away, her thoughts began to swirl. The way Dineka had been acting lately, the sharp looks, the fake smiles, the cold silences. Could this be the fire Mama Folami had seen? That night, Lulama couldn't sleep. Her fingers kept reaching for the charm, tracing the tight braids of root and twine. She didn't believe in magic, but something told her danger was coming, and she needed to be ready, even if she didn't know what kind of fire was waiting behind her back. It was one of those humid Saturday evenings where the air clung to your skin, and even the fans seemed too tired to spin. The house was quiet, eerily quiet. Their parents had traveled to Kisomo for a business conference, leaving Lulama and Dineka alone for the weekend. Lulama, ever the responsible one, decided to cook dinner. She tied her hair in a scarf, put on her favorite playlist, and began preparing pounded yam and spicy okra soup, humming softly as she stirred the bubbling pot. The kitchen was warm, filled with the rich scent of spices, onions, and palm oil. Lulama's mood was light. She didn't notice the silence outside the door or the slow, deliberate steps that approached. Dineka stood in the doorway, watching. Her face was calm, almost sweet, but her heart was beating like a war drum. This was her moment. The fire inside her had boiled for too long, and now it needed out. She smiled gently. "Let me help," she said. Her voice dipped in sugar. Lulama looked up, surprised but pleased. "Sure," she replied, turning to grab the seasoning from the shelf. That 1 second, that tiny second, was all it took. Dineka reached for the pot of palm oil, already sizzling hot on the burner. Her fingers gripped the handle tight, and then she let go. The pot tilted. The oil spilled. Splash. The scream that followed wasn't just pain. It was pure, burning horror. It echoed through the house like a siren. A bird that had perched on the windowsill took flight instantly, startled by the sharp, heart-piercing sound. Lulama clutched her cheek, her neck, her skin blistering instantly. She collapsed to the floor, trembling, her voice broken by sobs and moans. The scent of palm oil, once delicious, now hung heavy and cruel in the air. Dineka stood frozen for a beat. Then she rushed forward, her performance beginning. "Oh no, Lulama!" I slipped. I didn't mean to. Oh God, she cried, but her eyes were too dry, her voice just a little too perfect. The noise had reached the gatehouse. Old man Idu, the watchman who had known Lulama since she was a baby, dropped his radio and ran inside. It was he who dialed the emergency number. It was he who held Lulama's hand while they waited for help. Dineka stood aside, hugging herself, trying to look afraid. But no tears came, only the quiet satisfaction buried deep behind her eyes. Lulama, still shaking on the kitchen tiles, could barely whisper. Her pain blurred everything, but one thing echoed louder than the rest. Fire behind your back, and it waits to burn you, Mama Follow-Me had warned her, and now it had come. Lulama spent 2 long weeks in Kaloum General Hospital, her body wrapped in bandages and her face unrecognizable from the burns. The pain was constant, a reminder of how cruel life could be. Her once flawless skin, the kind that had made her the natural beauty everyone admired, now carried deep, angry scars. It wasn't just her skin that had changed. Her very sense of self had been stripped away. The face that had always smiled with ease, the confidence that radiated from her every step, were gone, or at least, that's how she felt. She refused to see anyone, no visitors, no phone calls. She even turned off her social media accounts. She couldn't bear the thought of anyone seeing her like this. Lulama no longer wanted to show the world the vibrant, giving girl she had once been. Instead, she hid from it all, locking herself away in a room filled with the sterile scent of antiseptic and loneliness. Every touch, even from the nurse's gentle hands, felt like 1,000 needles. Outside, the world was still moving on, but Lulama couldn't keep up. The mirror became her enemy. Every time she looked at her reflection, she saw only pain, only the scars that told the story of betrayal. Meanwhile, Dineka was free. She returned to school like nothing had happened. She had perfected her story, painting herself as the victim, the girl who tried to save her stepsister, but couldn't stop the tragedy. "The pot just slipped," she would say with a dramatic sigh. "I tried to stop it, but I couldn't." People believed her. Teachers patted her on the back. Friends whispered about how brave she was. Even the students who had once whispered behind her back now looked at her with admiration. Dineka's follower count soared. Makeup brands reached out to her, offering sponsorships. She was the new face of grace under pressure. But at night, when the world was quiet and the light from her phone cast a soft glow on her face, Dineka would stare at her reflection. Despite all her new fame, despite the praise, something gnawed at her. The mirror didn't lie. No matter how many filters she used, no matter how much makeup she applied, she could still hear Mama Follow-Me's voice in her dreams. "There's fire behind your back, and it waits to burn you." The words hung in the air, cold and unrelenting. Every night, Dineka would lie in bed, feeling a weight in her chest, knowing the truth of those words, but not understanding it fully. Was this success really hers? Or was there a price to pay for the cruelty she had inflicted? In the darkness, she wondered, would the fire burn her too? Or had she already set it in motion herself? It was one of those rainy afternoons where the sky seemed to spill its sadness onto the world, and the streets of Kaloum were drowned in a soft, steady downpour. Inside Kaloum General Hospital, the air was thick with the scent of antiseptic and rainwater. Lulama lay in her bed, staring out of the window, her mind lost in the endless cycle of pain and loneliness. The days had blurred together, each one the same, quiet, cold, and full of longing for the person she used to be. Then, the door to her room opened, and in walked a man with a calm presence. His name was Kamari Dondo, a 29-year-old cosmetic chemist, and the CEO of Soko Glow, a rising organic skincare brand. He was in the hospital to donate care kits to burn victims, an act of kindness he didn't need to do, but it was part of his mission to give back. Kamari had heard about Lulama's story, and something about her situation caught his attention. He approached her bed, but instead of looking at her with pity like most others, he held her gaze with understanding. "You have strength in your eyes," he said, his voice steady and sure. Lulama turned her head away, the scars on her face feeling more like chains than reminders of strength. She couldn't bear to be seen, really seen by anyone anymore. "I used to have beauty," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "Now, I only have scars." Kamari smiled gently, as if he'd heard this from countless others. "No," he said softly, shaking his head. "Now, you have a story." Lulama blinked, looking at him through the haze of her pain. What did he mean? How could scars ever be a story worth telling? "I don't understand," she muttered, her voice full of doubt. You don't need to, Kamari replied, his tone warm but firm. What you've gone through is your journey, and it's not the scars that define you, it's what you do with them. He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. Lulama wasn't sure what to feel, but something about his energy made her stop and listen. Kamari continued, his gaze never wavering. I run Soko Glow, an organic skincare company. We've built a brand that helps people heal, inside and out. I want you to join us. Come work with us, Lulama. Let your healing help others heal. The offer was unexpected, almost too good to be true. Lulama's mind raced. Could she really work again? Could she contribute, even with the weight of what had happened to her? But then, the words of Mama Folami echoed in her mind. There's fire behind your back, and it waits to burn you. Maybe the fire hadn't destroyed her after all. Maybe it had refined her, just like the fire that turns raw metal into something precious. Could this be her chance to rise again? Could she use her story to help others, just as she had once helped those around her before? Lulama looked at Kamari, uncertainty still in her heart, but a spark of hope lighting her soul. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of her healing. Lulama's journey at Soko Glow began quietly. At first, she wasn't thrust into the spotlight. Instead, she worked behind the scenes, packing oils, organizing events, and doing whatever she could to contribute. But each small task she completed gave her a sense of purpose that had been missing for so long. Slowly, the flickers of confidence she thought she had lost forever started to return. Kamari, always the steady and kind presence in her life, guided her every step of the way. He introduced her to the healing oils of the uruzi tree, a natural remedy known for its incredible restorative properties. At first, Lulama applied the oils tentatively, unsure if they would work, but over time, she began to notice changes. The deep scars on her face didn't disappear completely, but they started to fade. What had once felt like permanent marks of betrayal now became part of a bigger, more powerful story. Her skin wasn't flawless, but it had a new beauty, one that came from resilience, strength, and the journey of healing. Months passed, and Lulama's transformation wasn't just physical. Her soul had healed in ways that were deeper than any scar. She grew more confident with each day. She smiled more easily, laughed more freely, and even felt comfortable enough to look into mirrors again. She had begun to rediscover herself, not just as the girl she was before the accident, but as someone new, stronger, wiser, and more whole. Then, one morning, Kamari called her into his office with a big smile on his face. He stood there, looking at her with pride, as if he had known this moment was coming all along. I have an idea, he said. Our new campaign will be called Scars of Glory, and our face of the brand is you, Lulama. For a moment, Lulama stood still, stunned. She had never imagined being the face of anything, certainly not after what had happened to her. But Kamari had always seen something in her that no one else had. He believed in her strength, in her story. Lulama hesitated, the weight of the decision heavy on her heart. But then she thought about the journey she had been through. She had survived, grown, and now she could help others do the same. With a deep breath, she agreed. The campaign launched, and it was nothing short of explosive. Pictures of Lulama, raw, unfiltered and powerful, flooded every social media platform. Her face, still carrying the scars, was shown in all its natural beauty, radiating strength and resilience. The story of her transformation went viral. People cried, people cheered. They shared her story, feeling inspired by her courage to embrace the very thing that had once made her feel broken. Lulama's words, her honesty, her journey, her healing, resonated with so many. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a symbol of triumph over adversity. And as the world watched, they realized that sometimes beauty doesn't come from perfection. It comes from the ashes, and from those ashes, Lulama rose. As Lulama's story spread like wildfire, the world watched her rise from the ashes. But for Dineka, the consequences of her cruelty began to catch up with her. It started with a single message, a chat screenshot that surfaced online. At first, it seemed like a harmless piece of gossip, but as more messages came to light, the truth was undeniable. Dineka's mocking of Lulama's burns, her cruel laughter, and even her confession of the plan to hurt her stepsister were all exposed. The messages were a slap in the face to everyone who had once admired Dineka's beauty and online persona. The internet did what it does best. It spread the story quickly. Dineka's followers, who once hung on to every post she made, turned against her. The sponsors and brands who had been lining up to work with her all dropped their contracts. Her once glamorous life, built on carefully curated images and fake smiles, crumbled faster than she could keep up. At school, things weren't any better. Students who once envied her now turned their backs. The administration took swift action and expelled her for violent misconduct. The whispers followed her wherever she went. She's the one who hurt Lulama. How could she be so cruel? Even Aira, her mother, tried to shield her from the storm, defending her daughter's actions, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But no one believed her. The truth was out, and it was impossible to ignore. Dineka's words had caused real harm, and now the world was witnessing the aftermath. Where Lulama had once been forced to hide her face from the burns, Dineka now found herself hiding not from scars, but from the shame that followed her every step. Her carefully constructed world had collapsed, and the reality of her actions hit harder than any punishment could. For the first time, Dineka understood what it felt like to be seen for who she truly was. Not the glamorous image she'd projected, but the malicious person she had tried so hard to hide. The night of the Phoenix launch gala was supposed to be a celebration for Lulama, a night where she would share her journey of survival and strength with the world. She had come so far, from the scars on her face, to standing on stage as an inspiration for many. But as the event neared, Dineka, still seething with jealousy and anger, couldn't bear the thought of her stepsister stealing the spotlight. In a fit of rage, Dineka came up with a dark plan. She sneaked into the gala through a back door, her heart racing with thoughts of revenge. She clutched a bottle of acid, ready to destroy Lulama's beauty forever, convinced that if she couldn't have the spotlight, she would make sure no one would look at her stepsister again. But fate had other plans. As Dineka walked through the dark hallway, her long synthetic wig brushed against a live wire, sparking a flash of flames that raced up her hair. Panic surged through her as the fire quickly caught, spreading across her body. Her scream pierced the air, echoing down the hall as flames consumed her. By the time help arrived, the damage was done. Dineka survived, but the fire had left her disfigured. Her face now burned beyond recognition, worse than what she had done to Lulama. The acid, the revenge, the envy, all of it was now irrelevant. Dineka's beauty was gone, not because of a cruel act done by someone else, but because of the trap she had set for herself in her blind rage. As she lay in a hospital bed, the full weight of her actions crashed down on her. She had tried to destroy someone else's life, only to lose everything she had built in the process. The world had watched Lulama rise from the ashes, and now they were watching Dineka fall, a tragic reminder of how jealousy and hatred could burn everything to the ground. Lulama walked into the burn ward, her heart heavy but steady. The sterile smell of the hospital filled her nose, and the faint hum of machines surrounded her, but none of it could shake the calm that radiated from her. She approached Dineka's bed, where her stepsister lay, her once beautiful face now a mass of painful red scars. Dineka's eyes were swollen from crying, the weight of guilt pressing down on her, her body racked with the reality of what she had done. Lulama sat beside her, her presence so gentle it felt like sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. "You tried to destroy me," Lulama whispered, her voice low and steady, "but you only taught me how strong I really am." Dineka's tears flowed freely now, her body shaking as the words she had been unable to say for so long escaped her. "I'm sorry." Lulama looked at her stepsister, her face still marked by the burns, but her eyes filled with something far more powerful than any pain, understanding. "I forgive you," she said softly, her words carrying a weight of sincerity. "But Karma, she doesn't need my help." Lulama stood up and left the room, feeling lighter than she had in months. She had forgiven Dineka, but that didn't mean the past would vanish. The universe had its own way of balancing things out, and Dineka would have to face the consequences of her actions. Lulama knew that, but she also knew that forgiveness was not just about setting others free. It was about setting herself free from the anger and hatred that could have consumed her. The following year, Lulama launched the Phoenix Foundation, an NGO dedicated to supporting burn victims across Africa. The foundation quickly gained traction, offering medical help, therapy, and a chance for burn survivors to rebuild their lives. The scarred face that had once been a symbol of pain became the emblem of the foundation. It was a symbol of resilience, strength, and the power of turning pain into purpose. Her journey, her rise from the ashes, became more than just a story. It became a legend. People from all over the world shared her story, finding hope in the face of their own struggles. They saw her scars not as imperfections, but as proof that true beauty doesn't come from perfection. It comes from the strength to rise, no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. And as for Dineka, she was left to pick up the pieces of her broken life, while Lulama stood tall, her heart full of forgiveness and her soul unbroken. The fire that tried to destroy her had only forged her into someone unshakable. Lulama's journey from pain to power is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Her scars were not just marks of suffering, but symbols of strength, courage, and the beauty that lies in overcoming adversity. We all face challenges, sometimes at the hands of those closest to us, but it's how we rise that defines who we truly are. Lulama's story reminds us that forgiveness can heal wounds deeper than any scar, and that even in our darkest moments, we can find light. If this story touched your heart, if Lulama's strength inspired you to keep going, no matter the obstacles you face, don't let it end here. Like this video and share it with those who need to hear it. The world needs more stories of hope. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you're joining a community of dreamers, survivors, and believers. Your support helps us continue to share stories that inspire and empower. Thank you for being here, for being part of this journey. Remember, no matter how tough life gets, you too can rise from the ashes. Keep shining,